Hi everyone, it's Monday night, 9 o'clock. It's time for Use It or Lose It. We're nearing the business end of the Rugby World Cup. We've got the two semi-finals to come. Plenty of talking about points after this weekend's rugby. We will be discussing the quarterfinals, in particular focusing on the Springboks, things like team selection, should Rassie be making any changes going forward. So we'll have plenty to chat about. If you are new to our videos, do go down below and hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on Facebook, then make sure you follow the Good for the Game page. Well, we were going to have a bit of a bigger panel tonight, but Couch Critics headed off to the bush. He's managing to watch rugby by generator last time I spoke to him. We had a couple of other guys who had things come up tonight. I couldn't make it, but we got the big gun in. Judge Rugby, he's had a hectic weekend watching rugby and traveling to George and back. Judge, good to have you back on the show.
Oh, mate, thanks. Your big gun, that's a massive shot. I clearly got to whip out my A game. But, yeah, it was a very busy weekend, a lot of traveling and whatnot, spent some time with the family, got some of the rugby in, but a hell of a lot to talk about and a hell of a lot to look forward to this weekend.
There certainly is. I mean, we'll definitely focus on the semi-finals, but I guess to start with, let's chat about what happened on the weekend, starting with England and Australia, and just run through it. I mean, it was a game here where the bookies had England sort of 8-9 point favourites, and for a long time they looked to have got that right. I mean, Australia were competing, and they just wanted to run everything at England, and that appeared to be their downfall in the end. Their game plan there, they actually conceded possession a few times where sort of allowed England off the hook, because when I think they got it to 17-16, and at that point you thought Australia had a chance.
Yeah, I think they were kind of grasping a little bit. Like, we all know what Australia bring to a World Cup and what they bring generally to big games and stuff like that, and I think they kind of like started grasping a little bit and thought, they might actually be able to take this, and then they started flinging it around. And when they were chasing, then obviously England just capitalized. England, I still think, and it's been so for a couple of weeks now, I still think they are by far the form side in the World Cup. They're calm. They're going through the motions. They're working their game, and they don't ever seem to be rattled at the moment. Like, they haven't really been tested, and that's obviously going to change this weekend. Haven't been tested massively. I think Australia was possibly their biggest test before maybe their opening game against France, or their game against France, should I say? I think I'm getting confused, but yeah, it's just. I think they're just looking really good. I thought the way that they changed their backline, I was a little bit skeptical up front. I must say, I much prefer Ford. Currently, Ford is he's had a great World Cup at 10. Farrell at 12 and Tuilagi at 13. I think Tuilagi offers more at 13. I think Ford's a great link. I think that was the best option. I thought Eddie Jones was being reactive by moving Farrell to 10 and Karevi, and Tuilagi to 12 to counteract Karevi. Like, I thought that was a reactive move, which is something I haven't really seen a lot from Eddie Jones. But he basically put a journalist and a hell of a lot of other people in their place, including myself, in terms of when they said, why did you drop Ford? And he said, well, you've got to be coming to like 21st century rugby. I didn't drop him. I changed his role,
Yes, that's a good point.
And it's a great shout, and it's a great insight, actually. If you start looking at things, if you start looking at players not being dropped and having their role changed, especially when they got such a small squad, it actually changed your perception a little bit. So, yeah, I think England are looking really good. I thought Australia could have offered a little bit more. I think where Australia fell down a little bit is at 8. Nasserani didn't have his best game. I thought he struggled a little bit. And then other than that, I think Beale took quite a big knock early on, but I was really happy that he started, and I just thought they had to have some options there. I was still very surprised at the option at 13. I thought James O'Connor was probably a better shot, but I think Cheika went for a little bit of a gamble to try and make something work. But yeah, it was a tough game, and it blew out, and I don't think the score really does the game justice. But it's a knockout game, and you're not looking for a bonus point because it's irrelevant. Like, you want to go and win it, so you have to throw it around. Like, it's now or never. So these things happen.
That's it often. I mean, I often find these quarterfinals, I was looking back at past year's results, they're either nail biters like we got this year with the sort of France-Wales game, or they do tend to blow out a bit because, as you say, the team that's 10 points down or 12 points down has to start taking chances. And more often than not, the team that's leading actually capitalizes in that and scores some more. Just before we move off this game, Judge, just first of all, welcome to the guys in the live chat. Great to have you with us. And then, of course, the news afterwards, no surprise, is that Cheika has thrown in the towel. Some would say fallen on his sword. He's moving off. A lot of talk on Twitter about him. What are your views on him? I personally think he's a pretty good coach. He's got a strange style, but that he was working with, he didn't. If you look at the Australian Super Rugby teams, he didn't have the best players necessary to work with. And I mean, he's made one World Cup final. And I don't buy into this that Cheika's not a good coach. But what about you? You a fan of his, or do you think Australian rugby's better off without him?
I do quite like him. He's very abrasive, and he's quite polarizing. You either like him or you don't. Like, it's simple. And the thing is, he really doesn't give a shit whether you like him or not. Like, that's the way he is. He's quite a successful businessman outside of rugby. And I think that gives him a little bit more power in terms of that he's there to do his job how he wants it. And if you don't like it, he'll leave. Like, he's not doing it solely for the money. So, and then obviously when things start losing, it's the same with Eddie Jones. Any big personality, they're great when they're winning. And when they lose, everyone wants to jump on them. And then they're like, I hate him and all that. Similar with Jake White. And not that Jake White was ever losing too much with the Boks after he left because he was didn't get his contract renewed. But the one thing that I will say about Cheika is his contract expires at the end of 2019, and he chose not to look for a renewal. So it's not he wasn't sacked or anything like that. I think he also realized that his time was up, and he was quite frank about it. He's like, so the CEO of Rugby Australia, or the ARU, Raylan Castle, he says we don't have a relationship, and he doesn't have a relationship with the one guy below either. So his two people that he answers to doesn't have a relationship with. So I can understand that the environment's not ideal. I must be honest, I thought leading into the World Cup and what he brought to the World Cup and how he brought the players together was flipping good. Like, he brought in a James O'Connor who no one ever saw him being involved in the squad, let alone having such a vital role at 13, replacing a guy like Kuridrani. And Tavita Kuridrani is not horrible. He's a very, very good 13, and he does his job really well. But James O'Connor brought another dynamic to it. He had to deal with the Israel Folau issue where they try to close that gap. And for me, the answer was always and only Kurtley Beale at 15, unless you want to revamp your whole style of play. And then made a couple of big calls with Leo Lifano and Tamua at 10, and bringing in some options, Nick White as well. So I thought he's done okay. I hope to see him in rugby again. Like, he's great. It's very refreshing. He says how it is, and he doesn't really care what other people think. Which, when your back's against the wall, is not always the best thing. But also when things are going well, it's refreshing because he doesn't paper over the cracks. He's not going to give you an answer you want to hear. He's not going to be anything else but himself, and he's going to tell you how he really feels it is. So I hope we see him again in rugby. There are quite a few sides that are short head coaches and could use one. So we'll probably see him in England, or maybe he'll take up a Super Rugby franchise.
Yeah, that's it. I think we'll definitely see him back. And for me, he'll be one to follow because he's also got that sort of personality that I think he'll shake up. I mean, look at the way he came in when he took over the Aussies in 2015, I think it was. I mean, he shook them up immediately and he managed to get them to the final. And I think he'll have a similar impact on any club he goes to. Let's move on now, Judge, to the next game. And this one, I must be honest, if I called the first game correctly, I thought England would win well. But I got this one wrong. Boy, I thought Ireland would give New Zealand a game, and they just never got out the starting blocks. New Zealand absolutely pulverized them and sent a big message. I mean, there's been lots of people, and I include myself in that, who's been saying this is not as good a New Zealand side as we've seen in the past, all of that type of stuff. And wow, I was left there afterwards going, these New Zealand guys, are they as good as they look today, or was this an Ireland side that was quite off form? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, so everything that's been said about Ireland leading into the World Cup, I think, has really, really come to the surface now, in terms of that we think they're like maybe 8 to 12 months too late. guys might be a little bit over the hill, and I think it's more a case of there's a number of guys in that space. I think that's it. But the truth is, Ireland never really got out of the blocks at the World Cup. They didn't recover from the Japan loss. They were constantly on the back foot after that. They could never really get a foothold in. And then, facing New Zealand is also something I don't honestly think that they ever factored. I figured they reckon they'd meet New Zealand in the final, and I just think that everything kind of went against them. I think once they came in and they lost to Japan and things weren't quite right, like everything was going against them, and I think it was tough. I think I feel for Schmidt, his last tournament, and they wanted so much. Everyone wanted so much. It meant so much to Ireland. They never made it out of the quarterfinals. Like,
yeah,
there was so much hope. Like their Grand Slam 2 years ago, they had a so-so Six Nations, but it was the year of the World Cup, so it's okay because you've got other stuff to focus on. And they just didn't pull it through. And the thing is the only side that are like really playing like we expect New Zealand to be playing or to be as comfortable is England. I think they are the most level side at the moment. But New Zealand also weren't quite there. And you can't ever write them off. We are so shit scared to say that New Zealand aren't in the mix because they always are. It doesn't matter how much they're playing, how badly they're playing. And then they pulled it through nicely, but it's like you never ever want to play Leinster or Saracens or the Bulls in a knockout game because they have that mentality ingrained in them. They know how to play knockouts. It's a different story. And I don't care how bad those teams are, when they get into knockout games, it's like they've been brought up with that. Like that's common for them. Whereas with Ireland, it's not. The only times they get that is in the Six Nations, and it's a different scenario, especially with the hype around the World Cup. So I think Ireland were off the boil, and I think they were hit. They weren't allowed to get in the game, and they never ever recovered. And I think New Zealand were in the game from the get-go, and then they just carried on dominating. And if anything we know about New Zealand, they're ruthless. They will never ever hold back for anyone. That's not in their makeup, and they just want to play rugby until the ref tells them to stop. It's got nothing to do with who you are or anything like that. It's got to do with the fact that they're there to do a job, and they dominate. And they're really, really cooking. And I think we're in for a crackerjack semi-final this weekend.
There certainly is, and I will chat more about the semi later on. Chris in the live chat saying he believes it was an Ireland side that was hurt emotionally, and I call it a standard All Black performance, which of course is not an insult to the All Blacks because their standard performance is bloody good. But yeah, I mean, once they're out in front, New Zealand, they're very hard to peg back. I felt in that game, Ireland had to start well, and they had to then try and put some doubt in New Zealand's mind, and of course they failed to do that. But we had two rather one-sided in the end quarterfinals on Saturday, although the England-Australia game was certainly competitive up to a point. And then we came to Sunday's game, the first game, Wales starting favourites against France. I must say, I've got a long-time loyalty to France. They've let me down as often as, or probably more often than not. But I just looked at that French side, and I looked at Wales, and I don't particularly like the Wales side this year. I also don't feel they're quite at their best. And I went for France. And my word, did they turn in a first half of rugby where they probably should have put Wales away. They had their chances at the end of the first half. And in the end, of course, also controlling the second half, and then a ridiculous red card, and Wales come back to win the game. And you could see it was almost scripted that way when France got that red card. It was like the reversal of what happened 4 years, I think it was 8 years earlier, when Wales had got the red card. And Wales are through now, but it was one of those games where I certainly felt, France threw that away. They gifted them the win.
Yeah, it's tough, eh? I had a look at that side, and I thought there was only one change I'd possibly make to the French side was putting Raka on the left wing in place of Uge. But like other than that, I was quite happy. I thought pretty handy. I thought they were going to do the business, and then they started off the way they did, and they absolutely started cooking. I thought, funny thing, I thought Bernard Leroux, South African youngster, South African guy, brilliant. Like I really thought he had a great game, and he went there under a little bit of a cloud because he had picked up a massive ban and was still included in the squad because he was able to play come the World Cup. But I just think France are the kind of side that they're like I don't know, like, when you have like fast burning wood, like you put some wood in and then it burns and there's just fire and stuff, and then it like peters down, then it goes out really quickly. They've got to keep feeding the fire, they need to keep throwing like blitz on the fire so they can keep that fire going and the heat and just dominate. And they need to score like every 20 minutes. They need to do something. They don't necessarily need to score, but they need something that reignites their belief again. Because if you get on top of them and put them down, they struggle to grind out a win, and I think that's just something with where they are in their rugby at the moment, and I think it's something that will come back. But they're exciting as anything, and I think Damien Penaud, I think he was pushing really, really hard. He was in very good positions a number of times, just didn't get the ball. He knocked on the ball, or he got a bad ball, or he overran something. I thought he was trying really hard, and it was a bit tough. I do agree with you on Wales, and I've got a couple of Welsh friends that are probably going to rip me to shreds for this. They're like a 15-man team at the moment. They don't have the depth, and they've picked up a lot of injuries, and I just think they're struggling. There are a couple of guys like Bigger's taken a couple of big knocks this World Cup, and he's really good when he plays, but I think he's kind of touch and go. Fox Davies was pulled out from 13 before kickoff due to injury concern. So he's there. They've lost someone else. Oh, Josh Navidi from 8 man. They've lost him now, so he's gone back home. But they've replaced him with a backline player because they're fine with their loosies at the moment. Yeah. They've got Tipperick, Moriarty, and I'm lost. Anyway, they're okay in the loosies, but they're an injury away from struggling again. And I just if I had to pick two sides to play in the semis between Wales and France, I'd probably rather have Wales because I think we know what we're going to get, and we know how we can have a really good game plan to beat them. Doesn't mean we'll win. I think we'll have a more precise and constructive game plan to beat them. Where I think with France, you're kind of hoping that they don't arrive, and then you've got to work them down. Like you've got to chase the game with the French if they really turn it on, and you don't really want to do that. So it was very interesting. I thought, listen, the red card was an absolute shocker. It's a red card. There's no shadow of a doubt. I think it's a rush of blood to the head. I think, it's not ideal. Like everyone's like, well, why do you do that sort of stuff? You're a professional rugby player. Everyone will see the frustration boils inside you no matter what. Like, doesn't matter who's watching you. People do stupid things whether someone's watching you or not, and then afterwards you have a moment to realize, listen, I did bad. But, when you're playing professional sports or you're a celebrity or something, everyone gets to see it. So, it was a stupid thing, and I honestly feel that they lost it from there. So...
Yeah, I think so. I think even mentally they took a big backward step there. I mean, Wales came sort of straight back and scored. Then after that, I really felt even with 14 men, France seemed to be holding them. And then, of course, there was that try where their scrum got shunted there, and it was probably marginal whether that ball would have gone forward or not. But I wouldn't really complain about that. Ultimately, France had their destiny in their own hands, and unfortunately they messed it up. Just a quick off-the-topic question. Angelo Brisi's asking you when the pundits will be back, Judge.
The pundits, the podcast?
I think that's what he's referring to, yeah.
We tried to do one last week and a bit of technical issues, and it should be back in the next week or so. Definitely, yeah.
Okay, great. And I see the guys, the next thing I wanted to bring up, and I see both Andre and Chris are mentioning it, is the Jaco paper, the photograph, of course, that came out. And I should have actually had it ready to bring up on the show, but I didn't. But for those who don't know, and I doubt there's many watching that don't know, it was paper posing with the Welsh fans with their sort of elbow up and clearly sort of taking the mickey, I guess, or the Welsh fans were taking the mickey out of France for that red card, which they well know sent them through. And, of course, Piper's in a bit of hot water for that. And I've seen a lot of mixed reaction on Twitter, Judge. I don't know if you still follow Twitter. I know your account is still not active yet. But some people saying, look, man, the Welsh fans obviously put him up to it. He was just socialising. That's what rugby's about. And other people saying, sure, but that's a bit inappropriate. Put yourself in France's shoes. And there you see the ref with the Welsh fans afterwards. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really think it's much just a nothing. Like, it's inappropriate and it might be upsetting that's it. You know, like if there's one group of people that are pissed off by seeing it, there's another group of people that are having a laugh about seeing it, and you know, it touches a nerve with the French guys. But the truth is him doing that is irrelevant to what happened in the game. It didn't influence the game. It was all after the match. Like, it's a bit of banter. He's socializing with some fans. You know, if the referee was jolling with a couple of the All Black fans after the Bismarck red card against, or second yellow against Dan Carter a few years back and was dropping a shoulder, you know, Oaks would be grumpy and blah, blah. You know, the truth is he's having a jaw. Like, the nice thing about rugby is we get to interact with the referees and all the guys, and you essentially want to take that sort of stuff away. I don't think there's any harm in it at all. Like, it's insensitive, maybe. And it's,
yeah.
I don't know.
I agree with you. Nothing to it. Well, unfortunately, I do think, and I thought Pipe had an excellent game in that particular match. And unfortunately, I do think it's gonna probably cost him. You know, we'll never know probably if it did cost him. But I've got a feeling we may have seen the last of Piper in the tournament. And certainly, you'd like to think as a South African that he's only got one more chance, and that would be the New Zealand-England test, because you'd like to think we're going to go through to the final anyway. But that's a shame. That could be the end of the road for him. But yeah, one of those things. I think a lot's been made out of it. At the end of the day, yeah, if he could go back in time, he probably wouldn't do it. You know, but at that moment, he didn't realize.
I hope he would. Yeah. I hope if he went back in time and he was like, that's kind of what I want to do. It was the moment, and like, go for it. Like, I really don't think it's such a massive, massive thing. Like, everyone's grumpy about it. Like, okay, fair enough. But he was not responsible for what happened on the field. So he's taking the piss out of someone. That's really it. I mean, you got to.
As you said, it was. I mean, my money was on France that day, and when that happened, I just knew straight away. There was no question about it. The only thing I could compare that to was what those Italians did to Dwayne Vermeulen, like after the whistle. Perhaps the only thing I've seen of more foolish in this World Cup than what that French lot did. And I see he has announced his retirement, because I was certainly saying that he shouldn't play again after doing that. But anyway, let's move on to the next game then.
I want to jump in on two things still on that game, if you don't mind. Right. So yeah, the Vahaamahina retirement is something quite big. I know that he's come out and said, you know, it was something that he discussed and thought about it. He wanted to make international retirement after the World Cup, so it's quite controversial. I will say one thing: I hope that is the case. I hope he hasn't announced his retirement based on a moment of madness that he did, because he's been part of the French side for a while, and if that's the case, then it would be quite sad, because it wouldn't be really how you want to go out or how you want to be remembered. So I just hope that's the one thing. The other thing is on the Hadley Parkes injury. So Parkes is injured, but the thing is, he's been injured most of the World Cup, I think, if not all of it, and he's actually been playing with a broken hand, which is flippin' impressive. But I will say one thing: Wales have to have Parkes and Davies in midfield. I think the two of them together are vital. I think what we saw this weekend with Parkes and Watkin, I think Parkes is trying to shut a little bit more, and he changed his game slightly. I think he's much more comfortable with Davies there, and vice versa. I think Davies is much more comfortable with having Parkes there. So I think that's a massive shout, is having both of them available, especially with the other shuffles they're going to make in the pack.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I must say, I was quite heated with that red card, in the sense that I was kind of like, I hope this guy doesn't play for France again. But I do hear what you say in terms of the fact that it's not a nice way for him to bow out. Let's move on then to the final quarterfinal. It was South Africa against Japan. I can tell you the bookies had South Africa 15-point favorites. It was lots of money for South Africa. I think most people thought the game would go pretty much as it did, with South Africa wearing Japan down. But gee, that first half, Judge, 2 points ahead at halftime, you kind of knew we would pull away, but there was part of you that was going, gee, if Japan score here and take the lead, we got our backs up against the wall. Yeah,
I think that was the most important thing, was not giving them the lead before halftime or slightly after. I think we needed to kind of shuttle them down. Before I forget, I do want to chat about that forward pass and that Welsh try,
yes.
But we can chat about it after this. So with regards to South Africa, like our whole game plan, especially with Japan and how they want to play and work everything, I think we really wanted to wear them down. So Russie's sort of comments on why he picked a 6-2 split on the bench was a very interesting one as well. Again, a whole thing around perception is all of us were like, oh, he's just going to smash him in the forwards all day. And what Russie said was, because Japan are so mobile and they are going to spread the ball so much, the people that are going to get tired first are going to be our pack, and therefore he wants to have an extra forward there so he can manage the pack, so our big guys can stay mobile for longer as a pack on the field, which I thought is another great way of looking at it and sorting it out. But yeah, we got off to a great start. I thought that my Pimpy finish, fair enough, the Utamura tackle on him attempt was not great, but I thought his finish was incredible. I thought my Pimpy stood up on Sunday, and really impressed. Defense and on attack, I thought, he was steamrolling guys and everything. So yeah, I think we were really stuck in there really well. I thought a lot of guys put their hand up, and I thought, I know I feel bad, but I always talk about it and I always harp on it, but we've got two guys that are really limping along in the box side, and once we sort them out, I think we're sorted. I think we're pretty good. We've got a solid match day 23 even squad.
That's it. I mean, I think a couple of guys, let's just divert from the team at the moment. A few of the guys, and there was a lot of criticism for Wayne Barnes as far as refereeing goes on this game. Now, I'm quite outstated about it. I think Barnes is the best ref in the world at the moment. I rate him. I didn't have any major issues with him. Yes, it was very strange that he didn't go up to the TMO on a couple of occasions, both for the Beast decision and also when I think with Mapimpi was taken out in the air. And yeah, he might have missed a few things, but did you feel Barnes had a particularly bad game, bit off colour? Or I certainly didn't feel he was biased in any way against us.
I didn't think he was. I don't think he performed where we've seen him perform over the last, say, year. I thought he was a little bit off. I thought there are a couple of key things. I think the Beast tackle, according to the laws, a yellow card. I think it was very, very touch and go. The truth is when he dropped the man down, he dropped in on his shoulder and back first, which is a yellow card. If you went to the TMO, you could maybe negotiate that a little bit more and see it more. But the fact remains that on your way down, you put your arm out to self-preservation so you don't die, break a neck, and that kind of stops the other player from getting a red card. So, it's quite a fine line, and I've discussed this a number of times because it really is the guy looking after his own well-being, and it saves the bad tackler. So, talk about Russia blood to the head with Vahaamahina. The Beast had the same thing. The guy's zero disciplinary issues at all. It was a really bad shout on the Beast part, and he got a yellow. I still think if they went upstairs, they definitely would have given him a yellow. I think it was very, very tight to go the other way. I thought the Leach collision was. I thought that was pretty much a yellow, or definitely a penalty. I think the Kotaro Matsushima incident with Mapimpi was also possibly a penalty, maybe a yellow. He goes around the neck, so therefore it makes it a yellow, but also didn't go upstairs. And Wayne Barnes' justification of that incident, I wasn't happy with. I didn't feel that. And then there was a very interesting one when Cheika Colby went down. I just want to say that when Colby gets the ball and he ducks into a man, the defender comes at him and he ducks in and he picks a man and drops him over his back. That's actually a yellow card for Cheika Colby. The truth is he's responsible for that guy. I know you don't ever get to see this stuff often, but by the letter of the law, that's a penalty to Japan, possibly a yellow card for Colby, because the way that he picked up the man and stood up and dropped him over the other end and he didn't come down safely.
And we actually got a penalty from that because the guy grabbed his just afterwards. But I remember thinking, I wasn't too sure of the rule, to be honest, but I remember thinking, oh my word, are we in trouble here with Colby?
Absolutely. So, Wayne Barnes was so. I thought there a couple of clean-outs came from the side, but the truth is, during this whole entire World Cup, we've seen guys entering in from the side. So, There was a lot of things that happened. I thought Damien Delendi's try at halftime was the right call. But again, by the letter of the law, if a defender has his hand on you and your knees are on the ground, it's classed as a tackle. You therefore need to release the ball. And it kind of happened that there were two. It was definitely the first one. The second one was a bit touch and go. So by the law, it was right. So the thing is I feel that the refs, I don't know if they've been told not to spend too much time going to the TMO, because there are a number of calls there that we've seen go to the TMO. Like, we could have had 5 TMOs come in that first half. So I don't know what the reason for that is. I don't know if they've maybe decided to reel it in or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I must say I got that same feeling, because there were games earlier in the tournament where the TMO just never stopped getting involved. And I think World Rugby must take a lot of criticism, and perhaps it was a sort of thing, well, look, guys, only get involved if you really have to. But I was quite surprised. I don't really have an issue with the ref saying I'm backing my decision here, but I was quite surprised that the TMO actually didn't get involved, and say, look, let's just have a closer look at that. But personally, that's kind of the way I like the game to be played. I would almost rather go back to the days before the TMO, quite frankly. Maybe I don't mind it for tries and let the disciplinary things get handled outside of it, because I hate this sort of stop-start. And I thought, yeah, Barnes let the game flow fairly well. As you say, probably didn't have his best game. But let's chat a little bit more about the Bok performance, and in particular, I'd like to start with the actual Bok strategy, and then let's start with the players who performed really well, Judge, because I think there were a couple of standouts, and we obviously selected a 6-2 bench, and we'll get into that in just a second, and whether or not Rassie should stick with that sort of policy. But in terms of standout players, I tweeted that for me, man of the match, and he wasn't man of the match, it was Damien de Elender. He had an absolute blinder of the game, and I know you're a big fan of his and have been saying all along that he's underrated, and he stood up in this World Cup. He's consistently performed.
Yeah, he was incredible. Him and Lukhanyo on defense were flipping world class on Sunday. They really, really, really took control there. I thought a number of decisions that both of them made, specifically Lukhanyo with his shooting up, like he made them and he executed them. And I was very impressed. Damien was brilliant. He carried well, distributed, made his tackles. Like, I don't know what more people really want to see. It literally does like stuff like that week in and week out. But haters are going to hate, and is what it is. I will be honest. I don't think Faf was man of the match by far. No,
I didn't. I was very surprised to see man. I didn't think he. He's taken a lot of criticism for all his kicking, but as far as I'm concerned, he's very much under instruction, and perhaps some of his kicking was off. But I was very surprised to see man of the match. I thought he was. I didn't have an issue with him on the day, but I definitely didn't think it was a man of the match performance.
No, his kicking is under instruction. There's no doubt about it. I have the issue with the accuracy and the type of kicking. So if you're going to kick that, we've got the best chasers in the world. Like, we really do. Between Nkosi, Colby, Mapimpi, even Galant, we've got some of the best rugby ball chasers, kick chasers in the world. And the thing is if you land the ball 15 plus meters away from them, they really can't. I'm not talking about contesting. I'm talking about being there. If the ball lands, if the guy gets the ball and Mapimpi is on him within 10 meters, that allows a whole line to come up, and it changes the game. When the ball's 25 meters away and they can put in 2 passes and kick to the other corner, that's a waste of a kick. So I don't necessarily mean that they need to contest every kick, but we need to make the kicks relevant, and they need to work, and they need to be available for our good kick chasers. So I thought Faf made 1 or 2 good spot tackles, which is his role. I thought in the beginning was quite interesting. He was actually out wide twice. If you saw in the beginning of the game, he was out wide defending, and one time it was Colby, and the one time on Colby's wing and Mapimpi's wing that they dropped back, which obviously they wanted to maybe create a bit more cover at the back for some reason. I thought it was quite interesting. But I still think that he can improve a lot. He doesn't have a great pass. It's fact. It's just he struggles a little bit with that. He was quite a lot better on Saturday, and obviously he performs much better when we're going forward. But it's just so. I thought Pollard was pretty handy. I thought Luit was incredible. And him and Eben kind of stood up this weekend as well. He's kind of been touch and go, and a lot of guys have been giving him issues. But the two of them on lineouts, I think we saw 3 lineouts, or we definitely disrupted 3. So I thought they're very handy lineout time. I thought the guys were good. Dwayne back. I thought the beast was incredible. He's cooking at the moment, like cooking. So barring the error and the 10 minutes in the bin, he's really dominating. He's probably one of the form loose heads in the tournament and in the world. He's really doing well. I really hope Mbonambi is okay. He went off at halftime, and I know Malcolm Marx had a really great game, but Bongi Mbonambi is probably the best hooker. It'll be difficult to, like, we're in such a great space. We've got 2 incredible hookers, so we don't really lose anything. But Mbonambi's just forced his way to the starting lineup, and he's really dominating. So it's really good. I think, there's a few guys. I thought Colby was quiet, but didn't put a foot wrong. He did get absolutely jacked by the Japanese winger. Gave him a bit of his own medicine, stepped him and went outside, which is something I don't think he's ever had to deal with in his life. But we scrambled well there, and we sorted out. Like, I thought our pack was good. I thought our backs were good. I'm just struggling a little bit with Faf and Vili still. I'm trying to also watch them and not be overly anti them. I'm really trying to support in as much as I can. I just feel that we can do better. I think with Faf, we've definitely got options in the squad. I think with Vili, it's a little bit more different. But I will say something. Jared has been on the show a couple of times. We were chatting early on today, and I was very, very surprised that Vili didn't go for HIA after his collision with Pieter-Steph du Toit. And Jared actually said to me that he thinks that Vili was concussed almost the whole game, because it was a little bit worse than he normally is. And he also took a couple of knocks. So it's a bit of a controversial one. And with the 6-2 bench, don't know.
That's interesting, because I didn't notice that. I didn't pick that up. But I mean, he really did play. I actually thought he improved, funny enough, in the second half a little bit. But he really did have some. He went to not much. Not much. This is, I think, the part that stands out for me in that first half was that glaring drop when we were sort of on the attack, but Pimpy was out wide, and you're thinking to yourself, just get this and pass it along. And he knocked it. I mean, I was watching with friends at a braai, and I tend to get rather animated in these games, and I think my blood pressure must have gone steaming up. Absolutely, I couldn't handle it. I mean, I've really enjoyed some of the Willie LaRue memes that have come out and some of the videos and stuff that have come out about him. It's been classic. But that's why I wanted to get to the 6-2 bench, because as bad as Willie was playing there, and maybe, as you say, perhaps there's more to it than that. Maybe there was something of a concussion. The reality is that Erasmus really couldn't afford to take him off, because he would have meant bringing Frans Steyn on then. And then if you get an injury, you're in huge trouble, because now you've only got your scrum half who can play in. So I guess that's the downside of the 6-2 bench, is you've got a backline player who's woefully out of form or whatever. You've just got to sort of stick with him. And it begs the question, though, if he did go for an HIA and he failed, we would have been in quite a bit of bother then as well, because Steyn would have had to come on early.
100%, and that's why they're supposed to have independent doctors, and that's why it shouldn't be our call or anyone who's involved. It's cool. It should be. Yeah. It should be totally an unbiased thing. And just on the topic there, it looked like it was Kamal saying that it was his shoulder. He definitely took a knock on his shoulder, but there's no doubt about it. He smashed his face. And when he's busy talking to the physio and they're busy working on the shoulder and he's looking and he's smiling, I've taken a couple of knocks and a couple of my mates have in rugby, and he just didn't look right and just didn't seem to come back afterwards, and it was tough. And he did make some tough ones. Listen, that drop there was very, very likely a try. I think the Lukanya arm offload where he got the offload wrong and he put it straight on my Pimpy's toes. That was probably 90% a try. So we did leave a bit out there, and we're still busy working on a few things. I just think going back to having the 6-2 split and losing Vili in the first 8 minutes would have been very, very, very challenging. The option is you move Francie to 15. The truth is he hasn't played 15 for an extended period of time under Rassie, so there's a concern there. The other option is you move Colby to 15. You put France at 12, move Damien to 13, and Lukanya onto the wing. But then again, Colby hasn't played 15 under Rassie either. So that's why I'm saying that changing Willie right now is a concern. I don't think Damian Willems is really cutting the mustard at 15 right now for the Boks. He's still got to work a little bit more. I'm not entirely comfortable. Whom I'm more comfortable with is the big question. I don't know. I don't think Damian Willems should play 15 either. I think he's a better 10. So I don't know. The thing is Willems has played 15 under Rassie, so that might change things. But changing this up before a World Cup semi-final, yeah, I don't really see it happening. I think Faf and Willie are staying. The thing is with Faf, Reinach should start and Jantjies should still stay on the bench.
Yes,
really feel like that's how that sort of dynamic should work. I think Reinach's got a much better pass than Faf. I think he's got a much better kick, and obviously he's very explosive in open play. But yeah, it's very difficult to make those changes now, and I think Rassie's a little bit pot committed at the moment, and I think he's going to have to stay.
So he stays.
Reckon we're going with a 6-2 against Wales? I don't think so.
That's exactly what I wanted to say to you now. Okay, I think the starting 15 he sort of committed there, but I'm not sure that he'll go with a 6-2. I think he's gonna revert to a 5-3 now, because I think that was a scare for us there with that. And I think the reality is if Steyn had come on for Willie early in the game against Japan, we would have got away with it. Ultimately, we still would have won the game, but you can't afford that probably against Wales, and certainly not if we make it to the final. So my opinion is that he'll probably change from the 6-2, and you agree with that?
Well, it's touch and go, because I don't know, but I will throw a spanner in. If we're going to go with a 6-2, then Reinach's got to be on the bench as your 9, because he covers can cover wing comfortably. So I just think that he just provides a little bit more options. So you could have Reinach and Faf or Jantjies, whoever starts. You could have both of them on the field. Where having Faf and Jantjies on the field at the same time, you kind of like, I don't know. Faf's played 10 for Sale, but I wouldn't want him playing 10 for the Boks. And I don't know if either of them will be good enough on the wing, and Reinach's definitely the quickest. So, I think if you're going to go with 6-2, then you go with Reinach on the bench. If you don't, then yeah. But I just think that we're struggling too much with Faf, and I think we're struggling too much with Willie, and it's going to be massive calls. Again, are you going to change both of them? That's very disruptive when our backline is really looking comfortable at the moment. Even though Faf put in 17 kicks from hand on Sunday,
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It leads us into, let's talk first about the Boks against Wales in the semi-final, which is obviously taking place on Sunday. I mean, it's fair to say that the general consensus is that England and New Zealand look like the best two teams at the moment in this World Cup. And we've got South Africa now. We've got to say one thing. This draw has opened up for us very much the way it opened up in 2007. We haven't really beaten anyone of note yet. Nice win over Japan and all the rest. They did beat Scotland and Ireland, but we haven't. We lost to New Zealand up front. We haven't beaten anyone of note. Wales will obviously be a test, but for me, I think we should have the beating of Wales in the semi.
I think it's going to be a hard game. I think it'll be an easier game for us to go through to the final than if Wales went through. I think it'll be really, really tough for Wales to go through physically. And I think the other two semi-finalists are going to be battered and bruised no matter what. So I think it's we're in a good space now to go through. You can't write Wales off. They're really on a proper upward curve or plateau at the moment. They're playing some of their best rugby, but I just think that they're struggling with a bit of personnel. They've picked up a number of key injuries, and they haven't seemed to stop during the World Cup. And I'm not sure if all of their guys are going through full strength. Jonathan Davies, Dan Bigger, I think George Northall's on a little bit of an injury cloud. Obviously, Navidi's gone home, so I think it's going to be a little bit interesting, and they're going to play a proper test match style rugby, and I think we're going to batter them up front and then try and use our wingers. I think one thing is we've seen our wingers score in the last year, which we haven't seen our wingers score since the Banners days, and properly making use and score the guys. I think our wingers are in such fine form. I think our midfield knows what they're doing comfortably. I do think that we've really got to look after Lukhanyo. I think we don't have another 13 in the squad, and that basically moves Delendi to 13, and he didn't do too badly against Canada, but it's a different baby when you're playing in a World Cup semi-final. But yeah, I think we're in a good space. I think Wales will still be favourites though, which is nice.
They're not,
aren't they? Are we favourites?
So interestingly enough, yeah. Look, I did think we would be favourites. We sort of 6-7 point favourites with the bookmakers, and I can tell you there's actually been a lot of money coming for the Boks, and that the bookmakers have actually moved the line out by a point. So the bookies who sort of started at 6.5 have gone 7.5. So there's generally quite a lot of money. I think it is based on exactly what we're saying, though, is the fact that Wales just don't look at their best at the moment. I think it would have been a much closer to even game. And I think it's just the feeling that we're going to, exactly what you say, sort of batter them into submission and probably maybe kill them out wide. So we are the favourites, or at least that's what the bookies say. And I would expect us to probably do the business against Wales. But just to mention, Brendan Shields on Twitter, he couldn't make the show tonight, unfortunately, but he was put up some stats, and I can't remember the exact stat, but what it basically showed is when our wingers get the ball, they finish well. What you say, but they tend to get the ball very seldom, and maybe against Wales we're going to try and get the ball to them a little bit more often.
Yeah, I think the one thing I will say is for Wales and for the Springboks, the semi-finals are a little bit uncharted territory at the moment. I think everyone expected to go quarterfinals and go through, but I think this is a space where the nerves are going to really start kicking in. I think maybe our wingers are scoring so well, maybe we're obviously delaying them getting the ball, and obviously the number of times the ball doesn't get to them when it should, with handling errors and a couple of poor passes and whatnot. But I just think I think our guys are finishing well. I think we really have some of the best finishers, whether in Corsi or Colby or Mapimpi plays. Even Kalant on the wing is a really good finisher. He's rapid, So I think we're pretty good, and I think the big thing is that at 12 and 13, the guys they really are a team now. They really are a combo, and they understand their game really well, especially on defense. So we're starting to break the guys down really, really well, and we convert reasonably quickly from defense to attack. I think we're pretty handy there, but I think our forwards we possibly have one of the best forward packs in the tournament. Definitely in the top. Like between New Zealand, England, South Africa, we're pretty dominant there. And the guys are starting to play well. Dwayne's starting to play well again. He was a little bit off color. Wouldn't say he wasn't playing well, but he's starting to dominate. Peter Steptoe is offering the same old. Evans back, so pretty handy.
Yeah, certainly is. Kamal just making the point that when France went to the wings, they had success, and that did surprise me a bit in the French-Wales game, is that I thought France, particularly early on, managed to find gaps that you wouldn't expect of a Wales team there. I mean, historically, they've been very strong over the last few years under Gatland defensively. They look to have a few holes, and I think we're gonna be able to exploit that. I see Chris saying that he fancies South Africa to beat Wales fairly convincingly. How about before we move on to the second semi and chat about that, Judge, give us a prediction. Who's going to win and by how many in that box semi?
I hate this, man.
I couldn't resist.
As you know, I don't bet, and I never ever bet for or against the Springboks because I just don't like that scenario very much. But I just think we're slightly ahead in terms of the game right now. I think they're a lot more worried about us than they have been. They haven't faced the new Boks yet. I think Rassie came out somewhere and said that obviously Wales won the last few times because they played our B side, which is great banter. But I just think we're in a better headspace. I think we are still on the way up. I think there are certain key guys that are coming back into form. I think we are a closer knit team than I've seen us in a very, very, very long time. And I think that's just a little bit better. I think Wales are very tight. I think they're very disruptive at the moment and leading into the World Cup with a number of injuries. And I think that has affected them. And I think Jonathan Davies at 13, they need to have Davies anyway, they need to have their 12-13 combo sorted. I think Watkin struggled a little bit, and I think the combo struggled a little bit. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring there.
Excellent. Well, I've gone for Boks by 15. I see Kamal gone there, Boks by 13. So, yeah, I must say this one. It is one of those things. Yeah, I wouldn't. Looking at it from a Super Brew perspective, and I must tell you, I'm totally out of it. I gambled on the weekend. I went France. I went Ireland. I actually hit England virtually exact. So I made a bit of a move, but that failure of France, unfortunately, to beat Wales cost me big time in Super Roo there. Angelo just coming in there as well, saying Boks by 19. So quite a lot of confidence in the Bok team there, and interesting to see if that confidence proves to be well-founded. But, Judge, I think it's also fair to say that the first semi-final that takes place on Saturday is going to be an absolutely cracking affair, because we've got certainly the two form teams of the World Cup. England at times was sublime, I thought, against Australia. I wanted to ask you, there was that try scored by Sinclair, where I think it was Farrell put him away with a sort of a skip pass, but flat. It was definitely wasn't caught, but it was flat. It was perfect. And was that a planned move by England, or were they starting to show their hand there? Could they have a bit more up their sleeve than what we've seen? Because I thought that was absolutely superb, because you could see the defense they were watching other guys. They weren't expecting the prop to take that ball and go through and score. I thought that was amazing.
I think it's very difficult to plan that. I think what you plan is the two options, and they had two of them. They both run perfect lines, and that all comes down to 10 or whoever's pulling the trigger, which at the case was Farrell, who I believe is one of the best in the world, and he's got an incredible pass and he's got good vision. And the moment that Tamua, I believe it was, made that shift inside to double hit whoever the first runner was, I think could have been Tuilagi, opened up the gap, but that pass everything was perfect about the way they put that together, and it was a huge gap, and the Rhino went through and scored. It was brilliant, and that's what you got to expect. Like, they are on form, and they're probably, if they weren't playing the All Blacks. If the All Blacks weren't playing in the World Cup, because of the All Blacks and who they are and how dominant they've been over the last 8 years, England would be favourites. They really are. I struggle to find a better performing side over the last 4 weeks than England.
Yeah, they certainly did. And the timing of that try as well, because I think Australia had just hit back, and in fact it pulled it to 17-16 if I remember correctly. And someone who was on England, I started getting worried, and then they hit with that try, and it almost seemed to take the life out of the Aussies. I got to say, Sinclair at one point, it looked like he was slowing down, like he sort of broke through, and he kind of almost like he thought, well, I'm going to make it, and in the end, he sort of got tackled and went over. But anyway, it was a great try, and I thought he also recovered from a little bit of a slow start where he was penalised, I think, in one of the scrums, and ended up played very well. But now we've got this clash, Judge. We got New Zealand up against England. New Zealand are obviously the favourites. I can tell you the betting very much the same as the Welsh game. So you got New Zealand by about 7 points is what the books are saying. What do you think is going to happen here? I've been firmly on England all World Cup, but I got to say that All Black performance against Ireland has got me pretty worried.
It's very weird to say this, but when this year have the All Blacks put through two phenomenal performances in a row? I don't think so.
That's true.
They've struggled most of this. They put a big game up against us. They really did well. I thought we were off colour. And then other than that, they've gone through the motions. Italy was called off, would have been the only other test. And then Ireland, they put a big one in. During the Rugby Champs, it was they blew out against Australia, and then they came back and dominated. And I wouldn't say they blew out, but they took a bit of a loss. And I just think that they have to be properly on form and in tune. I didn't think that their midfield partnership was the right call on Saturday. I got proved properly wrong there. Leonard Brown had a good game, so did Goodhue. I was very surprised not to see Ben Smith. I thought the wingers would be what they are. I really thought that Rieko Ioane is comfortably not first choice. I just thought we'd see Ben Smith and maybe Sonny Bill Williams start. So what's going to happen? As far as I know it, I had a look at the schedule, but both New Zealand and England are naming their sides at the same time on Thursday.
Okay.
So I was very interested to see that, because I do
they
feel
can't
that
respond to each other then.
Yes, I do feel that what happens with Tuilagi will influence what happens with the New Zealand midfield. I really feel that, because Whether they play him at 12 or 13, I think will change things up. I think if they play him at 12, they might even put Sonny Bill Williams at 12. I think if they play him at 13, they might have a Crotty SBW 12-13 combo. Or I don't know. I just think that might influence it a bit. I think Watson's starting to come into his own a little bit for England. I think I'm looking forward to seeing what Beauden Barrett brings. He's in sublime form. Like, he's really dominating. If you ever look at his numbers, it's actually frightening. Like, he's just comfortably running into World Player of the Year yet again. Like, if they go all the way, it's that bad. Well, that good, those numbers. So, yeah, we're looking forward to seeing what happens. I think their loose trio is very comfortable. I think Kieran Reid had a great game, and I think he's answered a lot of critics, and he's a great leader and starting to dominate. And their scrum halves are their scrum halves, you know. They're both in form, and they've always got Brad Weber to look at if they need another form scrum off. I mean, shit. Like, and yeah, I think they're pretty good. I think up front, England might be able to beat them a little bit up front, especially at hook. I think Jamie George is in a little bit better form at the moment, so we'll see how much that influences the way they are. But come locks and loosies, I think they're pretty well balanced. It's going to be an epic battle.
Yeah, it's going to be an epic battle there. In terms of England, do they make a change now? Do you see Jones making the change and bringing Ford back in and moving Farrell out? I'm actually of the opinion I like Farrell. I mean, I like him at centre, but to me, I rate him like the best 10 in the world. I like him at 10. But do you think Jones sticks with a formula that worked, or does he adapt now for the All Blacks?
I do not know. I would definitely not have put Farrell. I definitely wouldn't have changed their 10, 12, 13 against Australia, to be honest. So I don't know a hell of a lot then, clearly. But I just think I don't know. I think it's interesting, and especially after what Jones said, he's changing the roles of the players. You know, he wasn't dropped; he changed the roles. So really interesting. The one thing that we guaranteed of is Owen Farrell's going to start. Like, so
yes.
Whether he starts at 10 or 12, we don't know. I just think they've got some really great options with Tuilagi, with Slade, with Farrell. Their midfield is pretty comfortable. Sort of, they've got Jamie Joseph still there, if I'm not mistaken. You know, they've got absolute wheels outside. I know that Johnny May struggled a little bit with his hamstring, but apparently he's been cleared fit, so he's good to go. And, you know, Watson, and then they've got Daly at 15. So I think they're pretty comfortable and pretty set. And I think it's more a case of rejigging a role as opposed to changing, dropping players. So the truth is, I don't know. But either which way, I think we're going to see Farrell and Tuilagi side by side. So whether it's a 12-13 or a 10-12, I think that's what's going to happen.
They'll be next to each other. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the same as in the Springbok team, with you look at a Bongi and a Marks at the end of the day. It's not really a question of Marks being dropped. His role has changed in the team, and that's, I guess, the same way you'd view that. One last question on this game then, Judge. If it comes down, Kamal in the live chat saying penalties could be the difference here. Now, both place kickers were in great form. Mwanga was excellent on the weekend, but Farrell as well. I mean, to me, Farrell is the best goal kicker, in my view, you know, the guy from the touchline, and that he's probably got one of the highest percentages around. If it comes down to goal kicking, who do you give the edge to, or is it too close to call?
I think because we've seen so much more of Farrell at international duty, we're probably going to side with him. However, Mwanga is in great form. I think it would be an easy conversation if Barrett was starting at 10 and doing the kicking, because he's a little bit erratic at the moment. And I don't see that happening because of that. So I think Mwanga stays and Mwanga kicks. It's going to be tight, and it's basically, the interesting thing is the Kiwis love to capitalize on your errors, and England making a hell of a lot less errors at the moment, and they seem to be scrambling quite well. So it'll be interesting to see if New Zealand can get on top of England and score off an error. But yeah, we'll see quite a bit of kicking, and we'll see quite a bit of chasing, and the first guy to slip a tackle, the front foot's going to come, and we'll see how they work from there. Excellent.
Anything else on any of the games before we knock off, Judge?
Yeah, I just want to chat about the Welsh try that sunk France.
Yes, you wanted to mention that, yes.
Yeah. So the important thing is I think the key thing, the fact that his question that he asked, and his question was very clearly, this is, for me, it's a try. On field, it's a try, but I want to look at the rip. It has to be clearly forward without doubt in order for the TMO to change it. I didn't think it went that far in the process because I thought that, again, his paper was like very clearly looked at and he said, no, it's fine, it's a try, which led me to also think about the Springbok game and about how Wayne Barnes didn't want to go too much to the TMO. So it looked like they were trying to cut it down a little bit. But I just thought that was quite interesting. But it's important to know that what he stated versus the decision that was made. So it was forward, but it was also touch and go with a couple of angles. So there was doubt, and therefore you couldn't swing it. So by the letter of the law. And then also Reverend mentioned earlier when I was talking about like South Africa and the yellow cards and stuff. When a guy's tackled in the air, and tackled around the neck, it's a yellow card. Like, there's no doubt about it. So, I was dishing out a few in that game. I just thought that there was things that should have at least been looked at. But Barnes didn't go upstairs and didn't want to sort of entertain that. But other than that, I think what's interesting is the updated world rankings at the moment. All 4 sides that are in the semis are top 4 in the world after the weekend, which is quite nice. Not that I know how the rankings work too much, but it's always nice when the top 4 are top 4.
And just to mention, Kamal asking if we'll do any live streams for the semi. So I decided to live stream the game and not actually show the game, but just be live, which was quite fun actually during the game, chatting to guys about the game. I had a couple of guys come on as guests. Kamal, I don't think I'll be doing it this weekend. If Couch Critic's back or if someone else wants to host the show, I'll happily set it up on the channel for them because my daughter's got a big water polo tournament. So we'll be watching in the beer tent there at St. Stithians. Certainly the first semi. So I don't think we will, but we'll see if anyone else wants to run it. Maybe we'll do one. Jason, we're in the live chat. They're going New Zealand by 15. So going to be a very interesting one. Hey,
New Zealand I don't think it's going to be a blowout in any way. I think we're going down to like a French game where it's going to be a case of someone making a balls up and there's going to be a penalty to win it. And I don't know.
I certainly hope so. I hope we're in for an exciting one. I also hope, as I say, I've always been all along bullish about England. So I'm hoping they come right. And I'll certainly be standing with my with my hand on my heart, singing swing low, sweet chariot, shall I say?
No. What is wrong with you? Are you mad? What?
Can you imagine now? What's going to happen to me now? My money's firmly on England when the Boks make the final. I think I'll just go watch in a room on my own somewhere.
You don't support England ever.
I think I'll have to trade up. What does Jason Weir say? Yeah, Fat Billy is going backwards. Dear, yeah, it's going to be very exciting to see how it goes. Guys, thanks very much for joining us in the live chat. It's been a great show. Lovely catching up with Judge Rugby again. Judge, any sign of you getting back on Twitter, or are you quite happy where you are at the moment to stay off?
No, I'm not off by choice. I'm waiting for a Twitter robot to actually understand what I need and sort me out. So, yeah, well, we'll wait and see. Maybe I'll join after the World Cup and just bomb everyone a quick tweet asking if I missed anything.
Yeah, you've woken up after a few months. Thanks very much. And Ted, welcome. Pleased you found the show last week. Good having you all on the live chat. If you are new to the show, please do go down and hit the subscribe button. Thanks to Judge Rugby for joining me. We'll be back next week to preview the World Cup final and talk about the semi-finals. And no doubt we'll have a few other guys in the studio as well. I think the likes of Couch Critic will be back from his trip to the bush. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy the week.